I thought, okay, I just clicked on the first link that was there, and it was a Google Meets link. I don't know if that's a standard one that you're using.
Oh.
Obviously, that's not the one we're using. So,
Well, so.
and then my computer was trying to use the camera on both of them, and it dropped it.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's because I sent the calendar invite through my work email.
Yeah.
When you invite people, it automatically adds a Google link. I'm sorry about that.
It's all good. I just want to make sure it's on the right one. And anyway, all right. So refresh my memory where we are.
Okay, so we are working through what the data looks like and making sure that that is set up the way that we're kind of envisioning it.
Okay.
So let me, I was going to share my data with you. So the what I've done, or what you asked me to do, was to kind of start looking at separating the data per research question.
Okay.
So I have, and sorry, we released early today.
I was wondering how y'all were doing on weather up there.
Yeah, so my district is a little bit more north than where I live, and so we released our kids at noon, and then had to go and pick up tiny humans and get the tiny humans situated getting home. So, you know, the joys of parenting. Okay. All right. So
the wind chill, yeah, the wind chill here is 17 degrees with the wind.
We are down to, we were like down to 9.
Wow.
Like it was 22 was the actual temp, and then our wind chill, we were at 9, but we were getting like the freezing rain and stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, so, and then I couldn't find I have a webcam for my desktop at home, and I don't even know where it's at. So okay,
so you're going to do you're going to put like a data set per question or something, or per research question in each tab or something, right?
Yes. So
right, walk me through it.
I've got a good chunk of it. So what I have is for research question 1, we talked, it's the how do the local students' means compare to the vendor provided national scores? Here, I can actually, let's do this.
You know, those look like real data. These are real data or fictitious data?
No, this is fictitious. So okay. What because my husband is a spreadsheet fiend.
Make sure when you do your, I don't know if I'm on your pre-proposal committee, but make sure you make sure that they understand that this is fictitious data, that you just have.
Yes.
Your spouse is really good at generating random numbers or whatever.
Well, so spreadsheets are really good. Yes.
Yeah, they're going to frown upon you if you've already started collecting data. That's not going to be a good situation.
Right. No, this is all fictitious.
Figure out how it's going to work. Okay. All right, keep going.
Okay, so for research question 1, it is a looking at how the student scores compare to the national mean. And so I have a tab for reading and a tab for math. Right now I'm thinking I'm just going to focus on 6th through 8th grade reading and math. So there are scores for beginning, middle, and end. And so then we would do the descriptive statistics for comparing the means and the standard deviations for each of those testing windows for those 3 grade levels.
Okay, so this is basically going to be like, hey, the national mean, I'm making this up, the national mean is 300, but the local mean is 200 or something.
Correct.
Like
yes. Okay. Yes. So I have fictitious data for math and reading.
And so I'm kind of on the research question, if you're going to, because this is where it gets kind of messy, is that we say, oh, how do these scores compare? And then there's like a billion set of scores. So you may in your research question, but and we'll go to those in a minute. Or you have that, yeah, you have it up there. So did you identify, hang on a second. Right, like after assessment scores, you might put in parentheses there math and reading, because those are the assessment scores that you're looking at. Is that correct?
Yes.
I might just put
So in math and reading compared to the vendor provided national mean scores.
oh, is the blue your research question, or the above it?
The blue is kind of what we were trying to reword it last time.
Yeah, so I would probably just put mean scores in math and reading compared to the vendor provided national mean scores at each of this. Yeah, I just like that way the reader knows, okay, I'm not talking about science, I'm not talking about social studies, I'm just looking at math and reading.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right,
Gotcha. Okay, so I have that, and then we'll run, the descriptive statistics and create a table with all of that to compare. So from there is looking at the relationship between their map growth assessments, only looking at the beginning and the middle and the end of year state. So it'll be a correlation for the beginning to the end of year and then middle to the end of year. And so there will be a table for each. I guess I need to write that in there so I don't forget.
So the beginning map and middle map to the star score at the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay. And you're doing that.
So this would actually be like 6. Yeah.
This is just a correlation between the scores, not necessarily percent met using each one of the
Correct.
assessments or anything like that. Okay.
Correct. So looking at what their map score was and what their star score was, and looking at the ranges of where they, like, what the correlations look between them, and then identifying what the R and the P is for each of those pieces, and then looking at how many fit within the range that I'm going to set in terms of strength and all of those.
Okay, and again, you're doing only 6 through 8. Does that refresh my memory?
I believe so. I'm not completely set on that, but definitely 6 and 8, trying to figure out if I want to do 3 through 5 as well.
So in that blue research question, you may put 6 through 8 math and reading. Okay, so and then you have a way to analyze this table. In other words, how are you going to know how to answer the question? You're going to count the ones that have an R value above 0.4, or what's your idea? And there's no right or wrong. I'm just asking you what your thoughts are.
I am still trying to see if there was a preferred correlation value in the studies that MAP did. So if I can find it, I'm going to try and base it off of that.
Okay.
If not, I'm going to look at the stronger values and then kind of weed out the ones that aren't. So
I typically lean towards, have some value in mind, a 0.5, 0.6, whatever, and then kind of say, okay, 3 of the 4 had a 0.6 or whatever. There may be certainly better ways to do it. That's just kind of my thinking on how.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right, keep going.
So this is this is kind of a work in progress, and then trying to weed through. So I'm going to shift this over for a minute. So the kind of, we talked about doing the dichotomous correlations and running it that way. So with the fictitious data, I did if then statements based on where the map mean was for the national norms as to whether or not they met criteria. And then same thing with STAR
Okay,
for each grade level. So those are all formulated based off those scores. And then just random generated teacher input zeros and ones for the kids.
okay, so first of all, let me say on the, go back to cell D2. Yeah, where you have your if statement.
Mhm.
So we're gonna do some recoding if we get to that this Saturday. Well, if we even have, with the weather, who knows what's happening.
I know.
But if we get to it, we're gonna do some recoding in SPSS on Saturday,
Okay.
which may play into that. I don't know, and I'm not telling you have to do it that way. It just may be some of some value to you when you're doing your analysis. It's very similar to the if statements, like if I'm trying to change values to from a 1 to a 1 and a 0, that type of thing. Anyway, that's just something to keep
Okay.
in mind.
No,
Okay.
absolutely.
So now you're going to have column B are going to be yes, no's for map, and column E are going to be yes, no's based off of teacher input.
Yes.
And then I think you were going to make a classification table of some sort for a chi-square.
Yes, I did. So I have them over here. So what I did, so this was the example that we kind of talked through last time.
Yep.
And so I just had it go through and I did the classifications, you know, true positive, false positive, those, and then had it tabulate how many I had for each. And so, and this is where you can truly tell it's random because it's way heavy on one side versus. But so my question that I had though while I was working through this is, would you suggest doing a table that was overall for classifications and then break it out for 6th, 7th, and 8th? Or just do overall classifications?
Ooh, that's a great question. See, this is where it gets messy, is that how do you, okay, we've got all the data now, how do you make sense of it to where the reader can actually.
Right. Because there may be one grade level that might be more productive versus another, but then that might counter in the, like if it's the teacher input side, you know,
Yeah.
that might be.
What did we go back to our very first question? What did you do on that? Because I didn't even think about that on the first one. I usually think through that.
In terms of like how we wrote it, or
That first. So what are you going to do on research question 1?
that one is going to be broken out by grade level and subject, because where's my stuff? So this guy, and this might help. So this is how they like, and they have like full blown tables in their research that has all of the pieces for like school and all of that. But these are their general tables they have. It's broken out by grade level, when the assessment is, and with the mean and standard deviation.
Okay, so here would be my thought is I like to keep data consistent. So like when I would do data presentations, I try to make sure slides were exactly the same from slide to slide to slide. That way I didn't have to concentrate on teaching the audience, how to read the slide.
Yes.
I go through the first one, very detailed. And then once I get past the first one, I just flip to the next one. I say it's in the same format. We're just going to concentrate on a couple of interesting areas. And I would probably treat this the same way. So I think it makes sense on your first one, just as you just described, to break it down in 6th, 7th, and 8th, reading and math. And then I would probably do that on each question, research question that you have, as long as it's possible or makes sense. There may be some weirdness there where it doesn't make sense, but I think it should.
Okay.
But then you're also going to be faced again with the question of, okay, now I got all these tables. How do I make sense of them? So whether you're like counting, okay, and 4 of the 5 grades, it was highly correlated or whatever. Somehow you just have to think about, okay, now how do I make sense of this?
Okay. Yeah, because if you look at the study, like the actual, like this is just the overview that they give, because they
Right.
also have student growth norms and school growth norms, which I'm not even going to touch that with this because that would be a lot more pieces.
Oh, yeah.
But if you look at their full-blown study, that bad boy has like 200 pages of tables in all of their stuff. Where did I go?
The other thing too, well, I think it's important to give a overall view of the of all the data that you collected and be comprehensive about it. Is if you only pick a couple of areas, then it looks like you're cherry picking the areas that support whatever you're trying to accomplish. So let me give you an example, is that I see a lot of presentations in school districts where the presenter may pick out 2 or 3 areas that seem like they were somewhat positive because they concentrate on that and they wanted to show the positive work that's happening. But in reality, there may be 5 negative areas to the 2 positive areas. So you really didn't have any overall improvement. You had some sort of random act there.
Okay.
So be thinking of, present the full data when you're answering your research questions. Anyway, keep going.
Well, so then, like, so this is what, and this is tiny because it's really, like, this is how they did. So this is their reading and math achievements. So they have it based on their mean score, the school standard deviation, student standard deviation, and then the N tells you this is the number of districts, number of schools, and number of scores used for this kindergarten data, used for the reading data used. So should I mean, there's only one grade level, like there's only one school in this district that has a 6th grade, 7th, or 8th grade. There's no other campuses in the district because it's a small district. So would you focus on the growth that each student makes as part of the study too, because that's one of the things that they do, or just focus on, those are percentiles. Let's see if I can show you what I'm talking about.
But I don't recall your problem statement referring to growth. I thought it was more about classification of students into the right
Correct.
Right group. So I don't know that I would spend as much time on growth. That didn't seem like for your problem statement.
Okay, with you saying that, making sure that we're not cherry picking, the growth is one of the, like, how much do they get from fall to winter and winter to spring?
Yeah, no,
making sure.
I'm talking more about, I've got, kinder through 12, and I picked 3rd grade out to talk about because they had good results.
Okay.
Well, 4th grade wasn't good, and 7th grade wasn't good, and 8th grade wasn't good, but I picked out 4th grade because they had good results. That's more.
Gotcha. Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah.
All right. So these were the tables for the STAR versus MAP classification. Okay. And then I have one for the teacher as well.
Okay. And this was research. Which research questions was this? This was.
These are. Those tables are questions 4 and 5 because it's the how accurate they were in predicting and getting the actual true positive and true negative.
Fine. We're going to run a chi-square on that, right?
Yes, on both of those. And then
I might say, let me think here. I wonder if there's a better word than accurate, and I may have thrown that in. I can't remember all of our discussions, but I wonder if there's a better word than accurate. If it's relationship, what's the relationship between the teacher and the system? And you've got prediction there.
Would
want you.
valid be better versus accurate?
Let me think about it. I think it is more of a, that may be a valid, may be a better term there. Can you go to Google real quick? I can't remember how TA words that. Google Google star validity. Yeah, maybe that star validity and reliability or something like that. Let me look here real quick. Go down. I want to see the actual TA website. I want to see the other stuff. Use TEA in your search.
Also, there's.
Oh, wait a minute. No, oh, yeah, there it is.
You want reports and studies?
Yeah, I think that's the one. Yeah, the technical digest. Go to 2020 or just pick a year there. I'm hoping this is in there. But can you go down to
Do
try that one. That one may be helpful. Because I think that was what you're trying to do.
let's see.
Okay. So, scroll back up. What's the verbiage before that? The intro. Oh, no, it's not a.
It's just a list of tables. Because I think those are just the appendix. So
I guess what I'm looking for just yet. Is there a section on try that chapter 3. Go to validity there. Okay, hang on a second. Is there something about, scroll down a little bit. I thought they did a classification table on this. Scroll down some more performance standards. Beginning, standard settings. Keep scrolling down.
that's all their standards. So gotta love the testing system. Hey, look, there's a p-value.
Hey, there you go.
That's for star at least.
Keep going. I thought they did a classification table on this. I'm trying to remember. I thought I did a presentation.
There's the scaling process.
Yep.
Vertical, lovely formulas. Equating, field testing. Oh my goodness. So here's consistency. Hey, standard of error.
There's a lot of terms in there that we've been using. Cited. Okay, see if there's a.
My goodness. Like I've looked through some of this stuff, but I haven't looked at the newest one. So here's.
Okay, stop right here just a minute. Okay. So you're really doing that second one, but the first one and the second one kind of do the same thing. The main difference is timing. In other words, predictive, you do kind of the same method, but predictive is I've done this now and I'm trying to predict a score.
Right.
3 months from now. Concurrent means I'm doing the same model, but I'm doing them at the same time. But that's really what you're doing there. And I wanted to see though what they, because I thought they did a classification table of some sort.
Well, and I can look when we're done. I'll go and look at MAP did, they have their linking study to STAR. I can see how they word it
Yeah.
and see if there's what verbiage they use.
I would do a little bit of research here, and this certainly could do a couple of things. First, we got some validity definitions there. I think that might be useful for what you're trying to do. It also would give you another source or reference that you can cite. But I want to say the way they did, which may be more useful than the chi-square. I don't know, I'm debating in my mind. But the way they did it is they added up. So go back to your spreadsheet. I think what they did is they added up the PPs and the FFs. So like the 397 plus the 610. And then they divided that by the total.
Oh, by the total number of scores.
Yep.
And I think it was
whatever you made up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that what that does is that gives you a percentage of correct classification. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the true positive, true negatives.
Yeah. So we don't have to decide this now. Just do a little bit more research on that analysis. So now that we're thinking about it, and again, this is kind of why the data simulations are, I think, useful. It's like, okay, now how am I going to analyze this again?
Yes.
This might actually be more useful or interpretable than the chi-square.
Okay.
Because you're trying to get percent predicted. You're not, which I think is a little bit different than the chi-square.
Okay. So that's just looking at percentage then, right? That's not having to run an analysis if we did it that way.
Right. It's just a percentage. So what you might do is you might run the you might do both of them. You might do the chi-square to show that relationship, and then you might just do this percentage to show what percent is actually correctly classified.
Okay.
So you might think about doing it both ways.
Got it.
There's another formula. I can't remember that formula because they divide by. Go to, because this is it's basically an inter-rater reliability formula. Go back to your Google and do a search on inter-rater reliability. I think it's like the Kappa inter-rater something.
I've seen pieces of this. Well, they kind of talk about a little bit in that technical digest too.
Yeah, they may have it in there as well. Scroll down a little bit. Try that. Try that one statology or whatever it is, definition and example. If I see the formula, I'll remember. It's not a complex formula. I just don't remember what they divide by. There it is, closed cap. That's it. See if it's got the formula for that. Yeah. So you've got, let's see, observed. Go down, see if there's an example. Go to this tutorial.
That's what I just had. So, oh my goodness. So looking at how they interpret it.
That's the interpretation. I'm still trying to get to the calculation. There we go.
Here we go.
So, so the 25 plus 20, we did that. That's 55, 670. Divided by the 70. So that's the one we just did, but there's another version of that.
Then it says to calculate the agreement that they number of times writer one said yes divided by total multiplied by the total number of times for writer two percentage added to the total number of times they said no.
There it is, that last one there. So here you have, scroll down, see if there's an example of, oh no, that is the.
So
is
they're
that-
taking the first part and dividing it by the second part,
Yep.
or subtracting it, and then
Yep. That's the one I've used in some presentations. I just couldn't remember the exact formula. So this might be another consideration, because that's kind of what you're doing is you're almost doing kind of an inter-rater reliability type of thing. So
Okay.
this may be a consideration. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing out ideas right now. Does that make sense?
it does.
Okay.
So we'll dig into that. Okay. So I mean, that's really just like the main setup. Those were the beefy questions. I think I have what I would need to answer research question 3, but I wanted to talk through that one to make sure. So it's the identifying at risk through the vendor versus the teacher. So is it just the binary logistic regression would be the zeros and ones for the teacher input versus the map prediction, correct? Not looking at the classification.
Hang on a second. Yeah. So you're gonna put, did we do the binary logistic regression last time?
We talked about it, but we haven't
Did we
done
do the
it.
one?
No.
Okay, so let's try that. I want to make sure we're saying the same. Do you have SPSS on the machine that you're on right now?
I have it on my laptop one, yes. So
Can you show that somehow, either going
yes.
in or in there, or I didn't know what your setup was.
All right, so here is,
So get a data sheet open.
okay.
Okay, so under the first column,
Mm-hmm.
variable, it just says, is this the data sheet of the variable view?
This is the data view.
Okay, so in variable, in the upper left-hand corner, yeah, let's go ahead and name them. Just put like map. Put map and then put teacher. We'll just leave it like that.
Okay.
And put over on to the right, put scale on the first one. And then you could probably put nominal on that one. And go ahead and
Okay.
go ahead and get rid of the decimals. I just don't like the decimals.
Yeah, I don't either. I understand.
Okay, now go back to your data view. So under map, we're just gonna make up some scores here. Do 100 through 1,000 in by 100 increments. So 100, 200, 300. We just need some data to play with. And so under teacher, put, let's try this in a second. Yeah, do like 1, 1, or I'm sorry, do like 0, 0, and then 1, and then 0, and then 1, 1, and then 0, and then the rest 1, something like that. So
Okay.
notice, just visually looking at it, after the visual inspection, it does feel a little bit like the higher you make on map, then you're going to be classified as a, well, we actually had this opposite. Let's pretend here, I guess, that the ones are non-at risk. We kind of did it opposite, but it'll still be fine. And the zeros are at risk. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I coded those backwards, but it'll work for the example, I think. So just visual inspection, it looks kind of like, oh yeah, okay, as a map scores increase, then they are less likely to be at risk. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So go to, and I don't know, because it looks like you're using a Mac. I'm not sure how this is formatted here.
For the most part, it's the same on everything you've done on your side for us.
Go to, oh, I see the bars at the top there now. Okay, go to analyze. Yeah, analyze. Go to regression. And is there binary logistic regression? There you go. And put map in for the covariate, and teacher in for the dependent. And go over to save, and go to probabilities and group membership, check those. We're not going to do the others right now. Hit continue. Go to options. Just let me see what's under that.
95.
We're probably fine on that. Hit continue, and then hit OK. Okay, so before we get to the data readout, go back to your data view. Notice you have 2 new columns there because we did that save. So now it's saving the data per student. So what you're interested in is where it says teacher, you've got 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, where you have the last column, the predictive column, or whatever that stands for there. You got 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So what this is saying is, based off of the data you entered, that the 100, 200, 300, 400, those are predicted to be zeros. And in our case, those would be your at-risk students. And then 500 and above would be your non-at-risk students.
Okay.
And then it gives you a probability. The probability is usually at 50% or higher, gives you the 1. So notice that 0.58 is a 1, 0.7 is 1, and so forth. But notice your probabilities below that 0.45, that's a breakpoint of a 0, right?
Okay.
Okay. So I think what you're interested in is, let me think here how to do this. Okay, so this would be the teacher model, where you're comparing map to the teacher.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this gives you a breakpoint of 500. Let's pretend that the map test gave you a breakpoint of 600. So now you see how the breakpoint changed?
Yes. Okay.
So the 600 would be established through your technical digest or your literature from the map assessment itself. The map
Right.
And so here, let's pretend for a moment that the technical digest said the breakpoint is 600. Anybody below 600 is at risk. Anybody above 600 is okay. But according to what your teacher said, when you compare the map score to their teacher input, the teachers actually give a breakpoint of 500. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And I think that right there was the very original question that you asked about, like way back in the beginning of the fall, when you started talking about this concept. This is what I had pictured you were asking. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay. So then you would compare what the breakpoints are.
Okay.
Now go back to your research questions.
Mm.
We actually did a model like that in the district where we were predicting success of student passing a grade level based off of the different scores that like their class grades and their star scores and that type of thing, or graduate using that type of model. It's kind of an interesting project. The challenge that we had was that we had so much missing data. I mean, you know how kids are moving in and out all the time.
Mhm.
A lot of missing data that was a little bit challenging, but the concept was very interesting.
Well, and that's something that we're actually going to start looking at. We do our mock benchmarks are in a couple of weeks, and we do 6-week formative assessments that are kind of like what Texas wants you to do with their interims, and trying to predict how many kids we think might fail STAR, so we know we can start thinking about staffing needs for the summer with House Bill 4545.
Yeah. So, and I did a lot of that work in the district, so I could certainly help with that if you had questions on it. The challenge right now is just with the pandemic. I mean,
yes,
everything up. So it's like I'm not sure what any of the models I've done in the past how they would relate. But anyway, I digress. Okay. We were on research question. Okay, so what's the relationship between the student scale scores on MAP growth assessment and the student at-risk classification of teacher input? So I think maybe the answer to this question is, or maybe the question, let me ask, is the answer to this question the scale score? Is that what you're looking for here? Is that with the, I'm making this up again, with the technical digest, MAP says that 600 is the cutoff, but running this through the binary logistic regression and teacher input, we think that our cutoff should be at 400 or something like that. Is that what you're expecting out of this research question?
Yes, I want to see if there is, like, I want to know if there should be a different cut point than what is suggested.
So what we just did would answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, now to answer research question 4 and 5, you already had, I think, the map stuff, but now the teacher stuff you're going to get from that table or that data view.
Say that again.
Okay, so go back to your data view.
My SPSS.
In SPSS. No, let me go back to the research question. I'm going a different direction there in my mind. Let me go back to the research question again.
Okay, just pull them up on my Mac because it will be easier.
And I've got another student at 3, so I've got just a couple of minutes left.
Okay. Do.
Never mind, I was thinking of something else. So I think you've answered research question 3. We've already talked about research question 4 and 5.
Yes, that was looking at the Cohen's Kappa inter-rater reliability stuff.
Yeah. And then research question 6, I don't remember what.
Seeing, is there a better, like, which of these two models is the better one if there is one?
Okay, so that may not be regression. It may be something else. I've got to think about it a little bit.
Okay.
I remember us talking about this last time. I don't think we'd settled on research question 6 last time. It seemed like we still had.
No, I think once we get the other ones fully figured out, then that one will probably come. It's just a matter of what is that going to look like in terms of that comparison.
You know what?
And
I think,
it may just be comparing that integrator reliability piece.
yep, that's what I was just going to say. I think that's what that actually is, comparing research question 4 and research question 5. So if you have your classification rate is, I'm making this up, is like a 70% on research question 4, but it's a 40% on research question 5. Now you've kind of got your answer for research question 6.
Okay.
Okay, so just to wrap up here real quick, what I want you to be thinking about, because I think we're pretty far along here, but what I want you to be thinking about is putting together your pre-proposal committee PowerPoint.
Okay.
I don't think I've sent out the template for that yet. So I'm going to either send it out or post it, or we'll talk about it on Saturday. But so be thinking about putting that together. And the reason I want you to start thinking about that now is we need to be thinking about, okay, how does all this fit now? I think you're pretty solid on your research questions and your data simulation. You still have some more work to do, but you're pretty solid there. But I want to make sure that all flows. In other words, the research, like your lit review that you've already been working on, all those types of things, all of these things connect, because we can't just do research questions. We've got to make sure that it connects to your lit review
Right.
statement was and all that sort of stuff. So I think the pre-proposal PowerPoint or template, I think it'll kind of help us kind of line that out, and it'll also start preparing you for that in April.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, and you don't have to have like your chapter 1 and chapter 2, those don't have to be polished for that. You've got
Just pulling pieces out of it, right?
the main thing they're looking for during that proposal committee is, do you have a way to actually accomplish this project?
Okay.
You got here's your lit review, and yes, that's connected to your research questions, and yes, you're going to be able to get the data for your research questions and all that type of thing.
Okay.
So that all of that would be in line. That's kind of the purpose of that. The other piece is the data that you're getting, all it's in your district. Refresh my memory. Is that in your district, the data that you're going to be able to, that you're
It's
getting?
going to be in my previous district. Yes.
Okay, so you're not using current district.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure, I think I sent a message out on that. You want to make sure that you're removed from the data collection process on that. You don't want to be like, hey, here's my class, and I teach them. I'm the best teacher in the world, and so I'm teaching my class. I'm going to do research on how great my kids
Right.
are. Yeah, you want to be removed from that data collection process. And that
Okay.
sounds like, this is a previous district. That sounds like you're in good shape on that.
Yeah, because I'm using this year's data and I'm not there, so it'll be other people.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? I think you're in good shape. We just got to kind of get it all tied together.
Okay, so then do we want to try and meet in 2 weeks or 1 week? Like, because I know we have class Saturday.
Let's see. I'm pulling up my calendar. I can do either. You said next week or the following week. When is your spring break?
Our spring break is that second week of March, and we're not going anywhere. We're home.
On the 9th? I mean,
Yes, sir.
The week of the 7th through the 11th.
Yes.
I can either do the 2nd or the 9th. The following week is spring break for us, and I'll probably be out of town. But so the question would be is, why don't we go with the 9th? That way I can kind of go over that. I can kind of go over that template on Saturday.
And give us some time.
Gonna have to work on it. I kind of like to see how far along you're on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Do 2 o'clock?
Yes. Will you send me an invite? I'll get on my.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you. You too.